and those who I have mentioned now, after that, unfortunately, because this lot up here have to respond to everything you're saying as well, and we have to be fair to them to give them a chance to do that too. Okay, 20 seconds.
Thank you. It's less than 1 minute. My name is Kian. I'm Climate Change Program Officer from Mekong River Commission. My question is for all panel. And you know, we talked today about why adaptation planning to mainstream. I think is more important is the question of how. Because when we come to the local governments or talking about mainstreaming even into the regional, let's say, basin development planning as within the MRC we are working, we have a lot of resistance and a lot of questions to answer. Firstly, people will ask us why we need to mainstream when they already overwhelmed with other mainstreaming, like gender mainstreaming, like human rights and others. So the question is how. And I think that it's more important when we have some kind of compendium of lessons learned from the practical projects that are already going on or let's say have been doing, so that people understand it. Because I hear from many people from here, they came here to hear how to do this more than to hear, let's say, why we need to do. Thank you.
There's some excellent points being made here. It feels terrible to have to restrict your time, but as I say, I have to do it. Okay, the gentleman there, you had put your hand up before, so please, again, not a minute, not half a minute, 20 seconds.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Talaybek Makiev, the Executive Director of the Regional Environmental Center, Central Asia. In regard of certainty and uncertainty, and so something came to my mind, and so mainstreaming and is a tool in the hand of usually developing agencies, and so it comes to, that's why when it comes to the national stakeholders, it's a sort of uncertainty. And when we talk about the integration of the adaptation, it comes to the local stakeholder governments and local communities and actors. It is a certainty. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think a lady just in front of you there has been not only raising her hand, but waving like crazy. So please, your point. You have a microphone there, I hope? There's a button there that says MIC.
Thank you. Okay, thank you for helping me. Actually, I want to support Mr. Kian there. I think when we talk about climate change adaptation mainstreaming to planner at subnational level, I would like to hear what are the entry points, because it's not very useful to talk about the like-minded because exchanging here, but we go to, let's say, the provincial planner or the finance or the province. How do you get them on board to begin with? Do you start with awareness raising? What are the steps? It's not prescriptive, I know, but if someone else have experience about this, how to get on with them at the beginning? Thank you.
And who was it that just said that?
My name is Nguyen Pom from Stockholm Environment. It's short.
I knew that, but lots didn't. Okay, the lady here.
Thank you.
Briefly, please.
Yes. I am Hope. I'm Executive Director from the Center for Sustainable Rural Development, a Vietnamese NGO, and we are working directly with a number of communities in 6 provinces in Vietnam. So I will talk on behalf of the farmers at the really grassroots level, and I like to raise 2 important issues that especially to the donors here. Number 1 is the capacity building for the grassroots people is really important, because they are really the people who implement the activities for their life. And in many countries, even in Vietnam, we have a very good documents in papers, but I still feel a lot of gaps, really a big gaps at the community. So we have to focus on the capacity building for the local, for the grassroots people, so they can identify the risk, the vulnerability, and the exposure, and then they come back with their own plan. So the ownership of their plan is important. So they are the owner of their plans, not some people from the higher level to come and to tell them. But the thing is, they need the capacity to understand what is the climate change, what is the vulnerability, what is the risk and exposure. Because in the many communities, when we come and we ask them, they have no ideas of what is the climate change. So we are talking about mainstreaming adaptation. They also don't know what is climate change, what is adaptation and mitigation. The second thing is we talk about what is more understandable for them is a disaster reduction. So we starting with the mainstreaming disaster reduction before we talk about mainstreaming adaptation and mitigation. Then in the same time, we feel also the challenge is we have the people to have the village, we call village development plan, but it is also difficult to mainstream in the government's socio-economic development plan. So something is there. The villagers, they have their own plan, the government have the plan themselves, so this is really a big challenge. So I would like to draw attention from the donors and also the government representative. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we have two more, the last two. That gentleman at the back who's been waving too like somebody at an airport trying to get somebody's attention. Yes, you're looking, he's with the glasses, get to a microphone, and he's now going over there, I hope. He's so surprised that I actually saw him, and but he has been really wanting to put a question keenly. So please do, and again, very briefly, please.
Yeah, okay. Something to add to the what Baron has been saying, and I think this is very critical for the success of mainstreaming. Having worked for NGOs and now working for a planning agency, I think the issue of communicating the message in a way which makes it sensible for planners, I think is the big challenge. Lots of the experiences, lots of the tools that are presented are very good, very nice, but are very difficult to capture into planning processes. So I think the challenge for us all here to make mainstreaming or to really get to climate change adaptation into planning processes is to really bridge that communication gap. Thanks.
Great, and you see we're not discriminating here because you sit at the very back. You do get to put your point as well. Salil?
Salil, Communications for Sustainability, had a nice dream yesterday. There is another summit going on where there are representatives from the seas, the oceans, the forests, the deserts, and the forest panda started saying, look at our habitat. Look at the people who are encroaching into our habitat. There are guns, there are bombs, and these dudes are talking about mainstreaming and adaptation. One bomb, one gun will create so much of carbon dioxide that normally will go for more than 1 year. The great-looking, sexy mermaid said, well, we can talk about environment in a different manner. The environment is not only the flora and fauna, the environment is also in the mind space. So adaptation is very much related to attitude. What's your response, please?
Okay, well, thank you very, very much, everyone, for all those points. Again, it's a pity that we couldn't go on forever, but that's such is life. Yeah, I am going to now ask the panel in reverse order. I think a great point of this exercise is that you are able to put points too that need not necessarily be responded to by the panelists, because you have to now keep yourselves very brief. It's 10:44, and we have until 10:45. I just want to point that out. And the other bit of bad news is that the coffee break is not going to be extended. It's going to finish at 11, just so you know. But on the other hand, you can drink tea or coffee anytime. You can't be part of a discussion like this at any time. And so, Darren, would you like to make some very brief points? I will finish up with Governor Joey Salceda. So, as I say, in reverse order to what we started.
In the interest of time, I think I'll give my time to Governor Salceda. He is I'm easier to get a hold of, and I'm not the 100 most influential people, so I'll defer till the end. And coffee, you can reach me, and I'll have a bag full of books.
Yeah, you got that point made again as well. Okay, Chitradon.
I don't like to add anything. It's all.
Okay.
But if you have any question or you like to exchange some idea, my email address is royol@haii.or.th.
And I'm sure you're approachable during the break and during the course of the day, right? Ancha?
Yeah, same as Darren. I think the ideas are interesting, but we can reflect in our own ways and we can communicate later. Thank you.
God, they were such naughty boys earlier, and they're being so well behaved now, aren't they? And I hope you're not minding that they're not saying more than this. Again, if you're really concerned that you really want to put them against the wall, then please do so at will during the day. Joydeep.
Well, the thing is that I think we are not protesting anything because there's nothing to protest. I mean, and this is actually one of the problems that we have. We are preaching to the converted. We're talking to a closed group, as Darren showed so visibly. So the problem is not within this room. The problem is taking the message out of this room. That's all I'm going to say at the moment.
Okay, it's getting boring now, isn't it? Please, Governor Joey Salceda, please finish off. And oh, sorry, Charles. Goodness me, how could I ever forget Charles?
I find it
how
difficult
could I
to be
do
as well
that?
behaved as
How
the
could
others.
I know you were the best behaved one of them though as well. Yeah, there you go.
And I find it risky to get between people and their coffee or caffeine. But let me there were some great comments that were tossed out there. And just to quickly kind of pull out on some of them. While it is true, and I hear many people concerned about the questions of uncertainty that our colleague from SGP in Cambodia raised, I think that we need to compartmentalize that uncertainty in the sense that, yes, it's important, but we have to ask how important is it, right? Someone said that the more certain we become about climate change, the less certain we become about weather. Okay, that's great. While there are a lot of uncertainties, there are so many no-risk activities, no-regret activities that we can do. As weather becomes more and more uncertain, it becomes more and more clear that investing, for example, in resilient, drought-resilient seed varieties, etc., it becomes more evident that this is a wise, reasonable investment. So let us not use uncertainty to justify procrastinating action. Okay? My only other comment is that there's been a lot of discussion, there needs to be continuing discussion about the quantity of mainstreaming. And that's great. Let's keep doing that. How widespread is it? Where is it happening? At what different levels? But in that discourse, let us please not forget to talk about the quality of that mainstreaming or those mainstreaming planning processes. And in particular, what I mean to say about this is that we need to continue discussing and be concerned about the participation, the transparency, and the accountability of those planning processes. Because even if they do begin integrating adaptation, but if they fail to be participatory, transparent, or accountable, we still have a problem.
Charles, it was worth waiting for. Governor Joey.
I guess we cannot leave this room as if everything is already uncertain or there's no handle. Number one, the best way to mainstream is still social legislation. In the Philippines, the Calamity Fund, which amounts to almost 12.5 billion versus national government only 2 billion, 70% has been allowed for disaster risk reduction rather than response. And for 5 years, they cannot be realigned. The unused balance needs to accumulate. In other words, what we really need is to help build capacity in the local governments. Number two, there are so many modalities of mainstreaming, especially adaptation towards. But first, the stream must go to a sea, and the sea is MDG. For example, in my province, we have identified exactly which population, like coastal areas, who are not able to go to school because of poverty or because of food insecurity. And that is where we're targeting. And that is the essence of adaptation. Essentially, so we are targeting, for example, when I became governor, 77% of school-aged kids are not in school, but now we have 89% participation. Before, for example, we have 133 mothers dying out of 100,000. We've reduced it to 32. In short, it's not exactly that surreal. I mean, it's as if I leave this room, adaptation is almost surreal to many. But in fact, there are already handles to it, and there are proven formulas to it, although there are many modalities. And number three, I think if there's one thing, I'll go back to the Philippines with an idea that there's also the risk of mainstreaming maladaptation. In short, there may be, and I'm trying to look at the entire